Toto. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Hello, everybody. It's Adele here with you. We're doing another episode of Roll Credits Interviews, and today I've got some lovely ladies with me. It's the co-directors from the Women's Weekend Film Challenge. It's Katrina Medoff and Tracy Sayer. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Very, very cool. So the Women's Weekend Film Challenge, it's a women in film initiative that challenges all female casts and crews to write, shoot, and edit a short film all in the space of a single weekend. It's such a great idea for a film challenge, and I'm sure it's no easy task for the participants.
Not at all.
But it is fun.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it must be so much fun. So you first launched the challenge from a single Facebook post back in November 2017. How did it grow from that very first call out?
I had this idea that came to me the same day that I wrote the Facebook post where I was like, what if there was this film challenge and there were all women working in it, where the person who was organizing it is, you know, putting the teams together so that people are working with an entirely new group of people and, you know, meeting an entirely new set of people. And before I could second guess myself, I put that up on Facebook just to see what the interest would be.
And I read this post, and Katrina was writing, if you've only worked with a male cinematographer, how will you ever refer or work with a female cinematographer? So this is a chance to meet all those women in every field and potentially refer them for future jobs. And I was thinking about the last film that I had produced, and I worked with the most amazing cinematographer, but he wasn't a woman. And so if I were to refer any cinematographers or basically any of the technical roles from my last project, it would all be men. I didn't work with enough women on that set. So when I saw her post, I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. And there were 300 women that posted in 10 hours who also thought it was a really great idea. So I texted her. We were already good friends, and I was like, do you need help organizing this?
Please. Definitely.
Isn't that cool that the power of social media, like you can just sort of blast this call out and like-minded people can all just jump on board. I think that is so amazing. And then what you're saying as well about that referral, I think if you don't have those female contacts in the industry, then you won't think about it moving forward. Like, so especially I think as you go up the chain of production, like when you're first starting out, and then if you don't have those female contacts, and if you don't know other females, then as you move up, you know, the next people that you will hire, when you're in a position to hire people, if you don't know any women, then that you kind of hire what you know. Isn't that the way?
One of our screenings, Katrina asked the audience to raise their hand if they're working on projects where they are hiring people, and almost everyone raised their hands. And it just hit home that we all have hiring potential, and as long as we are introducing women into that mix, then we are helping to increase the representation of women in film.
Yeah, and I really think work begets work. Like every single set that you're on, you're going to meet somebody, and they're going to need, you know, you as a sound person for this next job, or they're going to need that graphic designer, or they're going to need that gaffer. And so I think getting all these women together, and all these women are professionals. They're all working on short films. A lot of them are working on their first feature film. They're in positions where they can hire these people and refer them in the future.
I'd love to know a little bit the specifics of how the challenge actually works. Can you talk me through it?
Sure. So we put together the teams from applications. So we spend hours and days like looking through these applications where people are sharing their reels and their websites and their talents. And we take all that information and we put it together like a puzzle. So we make sure all of the teams have a couple cars. People aren't working with the same people they worked with last time if they're, you know, second-time participants. And just all sorts of, you know, things go into the making of those teams.
Yeah, and when people apply, they can give up to 4 choices for the role that they want to perform on set. And so, for example, someone might say like their first choice is DP, second choice is first AC, Third choice is second AC, and fourth choice is gaffer. And then we look at their reels, we look at their writing and websites and try to determine, like, is this person ready for the task? Do they need like a little more guidance? Do they need like a push forward? So we try to place,
skills can we use,
what are the best skills for them and for us to help the teams. So then we create, for this challenge, we've created 7 crews. There's 27 to 30 women on each of the crews. Every role is covered, from hair and makeup, costume designers, assistant editor, assistant directors, 2 associate producers.
Wow. So they're quite fully fledged teams. It's sort of, even though this is, this a kind of a bit of a grassroots indie sort of movement, the teams that you're building, they're, like I said, they're quite full teams.
Yeah, it's really a chance for our filmmakers. All of them are working professionals, but they all have different backgrounds, and some of them are coming from commercial productions, some are coming from the indie world, and for some of them, this is the first time that they're working with such a large crew, and also we are providing amazing equipment for everyone.
We have some really great sponsors this time. We have red camera packages for all the teams. We have sound kits donated by Gotham Sound, which is local, lenses,
Zeiss lenses,
batteries,
hard drives, everything.
Sounds like with successful sponsorship that the community's really backing this movement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like every major company we've spoken to, they're all like, how can we help? Like, we need to help women in film, and this is such an easy way for them to help hundreds of women in film, like right off the bat.
And then once we have these teams and we get them together, we train the team leaders so that they know, they're all producers who know what they're doing, but no one's ever done something quite like this. So we train the team leaders, and then at 6 p.m. on the Thursday that the challenge starts, which will be Thursday, April 4th, we pull a genre out of a hat for each team. So it's a different genre. You don't know if you're going to get a horror or a rom-com when you go into it. And we give them all a prop that they need to work with. So last time it was a stuffed animal. And then once they have that, they get to work. They start writing, they start shooting, editing, creating an original score, everything.
We assign 2 writers to each team, and we find that this is really helpful for them to practice collaborating with a new partner. We give like fun writing prompts to help them prepare for the challenge. And so Thursday night, when they get the genre, they basically have to finish the script around like 2 a.m. That's typically
they try to get it done
sometime that night. And then the next morning, Friday a.m., the producers are securing all the equipment, the locations, finalizing everything that needs to happen. And then filming typically starts Friday evening and goes through Saturday.
And they have to submit the finished film by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah. And we also assign colorists, composers, sound editors. So like Sunday's all post-production basically.
Right. So Sunday's sort of dedicated for all that tying up of all of that stuff and the edit.
Yeah.
Wow. And has everyone so far been able to get in on time by 11:59 on Sunday?
Amazingly so,
yeah.
Wow.
We made 17 films last year, total of like 300 or more women, and they all got in on time. So, yeah.
So fantastic. What were some of the films, just as an example from all these genres? What were some of them about? Were most of them set, in single locations to try and keep it simple, or how does it
We've
go?
had everything. So we had a buddy comedy that was shot in the first challenge in January 2018 that they went to the Women's March and shot at the Women's March in New York. And we also had an amazing dystopian sci-fi film that was shot. They decided to keep it all in one house, one location, and it was equally awesome. So yeah.
So Katrina and I take turns participating as well as organizing the whole thing. We basically see it as a way of learning from the inside what needs to be improved and what's working.
And it's fun.
So the last time I directed one of them, and we shot in 5 locations all over the city, and moving all that equipment in taxis basically from Queens to Brooklyn. It took like an hour and a half to get between locations, but that's part of the fun of it.
Yes, yes. So like all hands on deck, just getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking a little bit about the theme of women in film and supporting female voices, because where we are now in this, we're in a post Me Too world and all that sort of stuff is under a microscope and a spotlight, and there's so much more talk about gender pay disparities and inclusion rider and just voices, the importance of minority voices and different voices. How has this sort of new media attention helped you as a movement sort of gain more traction, and has it helped?
I think at the very least, people are starting to be more aware of this from, filmmakers. And I think that's helped us getting sponsors and stuff, because people are really seeing that this is something that not only filmmakers, but also audience members want to be changed. And we've been speaking, doing some speaking engagements. And sometimes we're talking to people who have never really thought about this before, even with the Me Too movement. I mean, we had someone at the last time, what was he saying? Like he never
realized that women were objectified in film. Like we showed a clip just putting just a bunch of images of women's bodies, like the camera just panning up their bodies. And he was just like shocked by it and never gave it a thought before.
Right. Because that's what we're just so used to seeing. But we also showed this compilation of clips from our films, and just the way that women are treated on screen when you have a female cinematographer holding the camera, when you have a female director, when you have female writers writing the characters, and they're really complex, interesting, dynamic characters. I mean, it's just night and day, really.
But also, speaking of the Me Too movement, at one of our talks, the opening question was, how do we amplify women's voices? And I was listening to what some of the people were saying, and it was all talk about, like, we need to listen to victims, Me Too movement, and victims. And I realized, like, women have a voice beyond victimhood. Like, we just need to tell our stories. We need to be listened to no matter what we're telling. Like, right. we deserve to have a voice.
Absolutely. And I think it's just so important for more voices, like the more female voices that come into the space, the more different stories will be told, because I think that we have seen recently a lot of a very similar type of female story, but I think that the more voices that are added to the space, and the more that will move into lots of different types of female stories, not just pigeonholed into one. Yeah. Cool. Very awesome. So what are your sort of main goals for this film challenge moving forward? What would you like to see next?
So coming up next for us is that we're going to be launching in LA for the first time later this year. We're so excited about that. We were out there a couple months ago, and we hosted like a drinks night for some interested future participants, and everyone was just so excited. And it was, it's really awesome to see that.
Very, very exciting. And
I would also like to do feature films eventually. I don't know. Can we say that?
Who knows?
Yeah, well, actually, just taking it back for a little bit, actually, I'd love to know a little bit about your backgrounds coming into this, creating this whole movement. What were your backgrounds in film?
So I am also still running an organization called Writers Work. So it's a community for writers building their craft career and community. And I taught writing classes, script consulting, all that stuff. And then I was also a screenwriter and producer.
Cool. I worked in film as well as an actor, writer, and producer, and still do, although obviously this is taking up a lot of our time right now. And I'm also the editor-in-chief of a magazine about Astoria, which is my neighborhood in New York City.
Very cool. Yeah. And are you finding that you're also meeting, because you said you participate as well in the challenge, are you also meeting lots of contacts and sort of building relationships for the future in your careers?
Definitely. And we both decided that we need to focus on our creative careers as well. Like, this takes so much energy and so much organizing, and we don't want to get lost in the organizational world and forget that we're creative beings as well. So between the challenges, we're going to make more of an effort to also work on our own projects as well.
And we have met, I mean, like, the next time one of us is producing something, like we know
so
hundreds of super, super talented women in every,
I'm already picking
role.
out my crew right now. I'm like,
yeah.
I want to work with her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've made lasting friendships from it too, which is really cool. Like, that was something that I wasn't expecting as much going into it. Like, I think for our participants, we're like, oh yes, they're going to network, they'll make contacts, but seeing them come back together, we always host a screening a week or two after each of the challenges, and seeing people come back together the week later and like they're old friends, or like one of our participants was telling us that her team leader invited her for like her family dinner. People are creating really lasting relationships, not just in work, but also in life. So
and they're working on set together on multiple projects, and we're like, oh yeah, you guys met on our crew, and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot, we've done so many projects since then, like we forgot the origin of this working relationship.
Right, that's like so invaluable. So I can imagine you guys putting together the teams, like shuffling and changing all these people's names, but it's like you're matching people for the future.
Yeah, we put actors on the teams too, and we're always like, maybe this person's vibe would go with that
good
person.
energy.
Like, I can see that director with these actors, or,
And also, besides for the networking they do on their own crew, we host a screening of all the completed films and then send out the contact list for everyone that participated. So when people watch the films and they say, oh my God, I love the lighting in that film, they can look up the contact list and contact the gaffer or DP or whatnot to hire them for their future films as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, those networking, like, it's just so invaluable. So I think that's really, really awesome. Great. So anything you can tell us about what is coming up for your next challenge taking place in New York in April?
Yeah, so it's like less than 2 weeks away. So this week we're hosting a workshop with Red to go over the camera packages that the teams will be using. And then we're hosting pre-production meetings this weekend for all of the teams.
And that's the first time that we're going to meet everyone in person. And like so far, they've all just been names on spreadsheets and reels and whatnot. So this is the first time we're going to actually put faces to names.
And then the challenge starts on April 4th. So that'll be, it's always crazy when we do the Facebook Live announcement, pulling out the genres out of the hat. And then we're like, all right, they're doing it.
And
like,
away they go.
Like a sigh of relief. Yeah.
Do you sit up on Sunday at 11:55, 11:56, waiting for the submissions? 11:57.
We do. And we like call each other and we're like crying. We're like,
it was so
beautiful. I mean, we're like tired then, so it might be that, but like it's also emotional, to see these films that didn't exist
a week ago,
just a couple days before. And, to know that all these people are working together and making these films because of the film challenge, and that they're going to have these contacts. And, I mean, they're just so good, we're like, oh, these films look so good.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I will make sure to leave all your links to all your social media and site. And for anybody in New York and LA, should definitely sign up to the mailing list. Anyone anywhere should sign up to the mailing list, because you could be coming to any city soon, because it's such a great challenge. And if you're interested, you should definitely sign up to the mailing list, stay tuned and get involved. All right, thanks so much, ladies, for joining me, and all the best. I'm looking forward to seeing the finished results for all your films soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to another episode of Roll Credits Interviews. It's been a blast having you. As always, you can stay updated over on the YouTube channel by subscribing, or head over to rollcredits.net, and I will see you over there. Okay, bye.